are talking History of Evil, this one starring Paul Wesley, who you may know from TV's The Vampire Diaries. And this is a kind of sci-fi, political, haunted house movie. Oh yes. So this film actually takes place in 2045, and there is effectively have been some type of civil war in the States, and it's now kind of run by what is now kind of a fascist style, politically extreme right, kind of loosely affiliated government. And what is left is the resistance, who are the people who don't disagree with this. And this focuses on a group, a family, who are being kind of smuggled from somewhere, where the wife is some type of political activist opposition leader. And she's being kind of smuggled, and they have to hide out in this dilapidated old house. Now, the reason they've picked this house is because there's rumours that this is a scary house and people don't want to go there. And the reason it's scary is, well, it's actually haunted by the spirits of white supremacists. And this kind of family go there, not really expecting much, but inevitably, certainly the husband seems to be either kind of possessed or at least manipulated by these spirits, or one spirit in particular, to effectively kind of turn against his family. At the same time, you've got the local militia who are hunting for the wife as a kind of escaped political prisoner. So you kind of are in double jeopardy. What will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So let's discuss what works in this movie. Politics. Let's talk politics. It's a tricky subject. I think having a movie which is politically charged, you risk effectively splitting your audience, don't you? So I think this movie may divide people. I have seen some attempts where they try to position like both sides of an argument. This one really doesn't. So there is that, but it's an interesting idea to have a kind of like a haunted house movie in a fractured America 20 years in the future. I think at least it's an intriguing idea. At least we have a unique setup for a kind of a horror film. And then we sort of feather in the kind of the more traditional style haunted house elements in that as well. So it's a sort of mishmash between, you know, like I guess like Purge or The Hunt, or kind of politically based kind of horror movies, but with that kind of typical haunted house elements as well. So yeah, original ideas, to be sure. I think our cast do a reasonable job in the acting department. I will say, I think the characters for some of these are underwritten and underdeveloped, but I don't think the acting is bad. I think you may possibly see some critique of the acting, but I think this is more writing. This is a common mistake people make, I think. But I think the acting is fine. The movie is vague in regards to what's actually happening. Now, this is a double-edged sword. On the positive side, and we'll come on to the negatives, I think it makes for somewhat of an experience where you're not quite sure what to expect. So there is an element of the unknown here. Because you have such a unique setup, you're not quite sure where the kind of the story is kind of going to a large degree. Even, for example, our ghosts, you know, are they from years like past from now, from 2024, or which is in the movie's past, it's 20 years in the movie's past, or is it from our past from this point? You know, there's lots of things here where I felt the movie had somewhat of a mystery. Now, there's the flip side of the argument. Don't worry, I'm coming on to it. So there we go. So, you know, there's that. I mean, there's some creepy elements that are used that are kind of made on a technical element here. I think, for example, there's a good use of kind of sound effects, which kind of gives it this kind of creepy things rustling around, the kind of the wind and things like that, to give this kind of a good element, a good extra plussing of the kind of the spooky nature of this movie. So there are some elements there that I feel make for an interesting idea for a film. What about the execution of it? Here's where I feel this movie falls down. Okay, there's quite a lot to talk about this. One of the big issues I have with this movie, and there's a few, is that I feel this movie has quite a complex synopsis for a film, but doesn't really do the work in filling us as an audience in with very much at all about what the world or the kind of the circumstances of our characters, or indeed even what's going on. Now, yes, it's mysterious because you don't have no idea what is going on. The whole world that this is set up, this kind of fractured America, to me that's a whole movie in itself. But instead we get we get a little bit of kind of text at the beginning of the film, and that is it. That's your setup, and I'm thinking, that's quite a major thing to kind of just breeze over, if you ask me. And then our sort of wife character is this kind of like wanted political activist. What has she actually done? Why do they want her? Don't know. And in actual fact, and I'll come on to this again, the character of the wife is woefully underdeveloped. But we're just not told very much. She's just some political escapee that is wanted. That's all you get. So that's your kind of your setup, and then we come into the kind of the more haunting element side of stuff. And I was watching it, and I've put this clip at the beginning of the review here. Our father character, the first interaction he has with ghosts, or a ghost, he's just completely non-reactive to it. And I'm thinking, why wouldn't you react differently to this? It doesn't make sense to me. Now, there may be a reason that the filmmakers have wanted to do this, but he seems completely non-reactive to the fact that there is this guy that's kind of, he must realise that he's a ghost. He doesn't even acknowledge it. It's like, for example, the first time we see these two, our husband, played by Wesley, and this ghost, this male ghost, this ghost got blood all over his face, and he wipes it off his face and then puts it on Paul Wesley's character. And I'm thinking, why wouldn't you stop him? At this point, you have no idea who you're just seeing him as a guy, I'm assuming, because that's what we're seeing. Why wouldn't you motion to stop him doing that? Ask who he is, react in any way? Doesn't do any of that. So it's really unclear about what the actual kind of status quo is. I mean, is he going mad? Is this all in his head? But we see him physically do things like put toast through a door that this guy hands him and things like this. So it's like, what is actually kind of going on? The movie is so vague in regards to it developing a clear narrative. You just don't know. Now, in the same thing with the ghosts, our child, the daughter, seems to be seeing ghosts as well. But that has no context to the film. She sees other ghosts, but it's never referenced with anyone else. Like, that her interactions with ghosts never has any impact on anyone else in the story. Why introduce it? It's completely unnecessary. So the narrative structure of this movie is just all over the place. I think it probably would have been better for either to not be in the future and just have it as today. It's really unclear about that side of stuff. It's unclear about the kind of the ghostly side of stuff. It's unclear about our characters and who they actually are. The wife, who really is the most important character in the context of the story, she is this political kind of person that everyone is after. She gets barely any characterization. In an actual fact, she comes across as quite unlikable being combative with both her husband and the kind of the child, and really not given enough time as a character for us to kind of empathise with her and see her kind of point of view on things. We just see her as quite a combative kind of character right from the kind of the get-go. And let's now talk about the political side of stuff without kind of going into politics itself. As I've mentioned, I think having a politically based movie is interesting, certainly in today's climate, but you risk alienating some of your audience. And the movie doesn't do the work, and in kind of, I think, setting this up, I think this is one of these films where it's not subtle. It really feels like this is kind of somewhat of a kind of a preachy film. Very ham-fisted in its message. And, it's just not particularly kind of what it would have been better, I think, to maybe if you're going to have a political message, be apolitical and kind of either show both sides, either don't have it, or kind of like just try and sort of straddle the line. There was a movie called This Land which I reviewed, which actually was an interesting movie because it did, I think, give arguments for both sides of the political aisle. I try to avoid it on this channel too much. I know it's a popular clickbaity thing to do, but I would rather this channel be somewhat politics free. But anyway, I don't think it was a good idea. It's an interesting idea, but I think it was poorly handled. So overall, this movie, I think, it does have some original ideas. It does have some, I think, it takes a swing. I'll give it that. But it's neither scary, it's neither kind of well developed, and the idea is that it does introduce a poorly kind of thought out. So it's a 4 out of 10 for me. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.